Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Displayit show. My name is Brian and I work here in sales, but today I decided that it would be a good idea to talk about everybody's background. Now I haven't been here very long, but one thing I have gotten a chance to do is talk with everybody about what they did before they got to Displayit. We all have pretty unique work experiences and we've all used those to somehow wind up here in the same place. So I thought it'd be a good idea to kind of explore that a little bit more. So I thought it'd be a really good idea to go around and talk with everybody about their very first job experience, where they worked, what they did, as well as a few lessons they learned way back then that they still carry with them today at Displayit.
Sure, my first job, I was 16 years old, you only could get so many jobs. It was at a grocery store. It was either a Kroger or an Ingles. It was pretty much just doing your basic bring in the carts from outside, help bag groceries, take the groceries out to the cars for the ladies or the gentlemen who need assistance, unplunging the toilets, wiping down the aisles, stocking the shelves.
I went to a private high school and they had a after-school supervision program. I would just go and I would kind of watch some of the younger kids, keep an eye on them until their parents came and picked them up. When I did that, I was still, I think, like a sophomore in high school. I think I got minimum wage, which was like $4.25 an hour.
I worked for a grocery store chain called Red Food, and I bagged groceries. Minimum wage, $2.65 an hour. What I liked about that job is that I found out that if you hustled and you were kind to the ladies, they would always give you a tip when you would load their cars. I was probably the fastest bagger they had on the front end.
I worked at PetSmart in the aquatics department. So people would come in and they would need fish, and I would take the little net and scoop them out, put the fish in a little bag, zip or twist it, lock it. It wasn't, for a high school job, it wasn't bad.
My first job, I'm not really sure you'd call it a first job, but when I was in the 5th grade, I was chosen to work in the school cafeteria, and they paid me with free lunches and all-you-can-eat school lunch. But the biggest payment was that I got to get out of class 15 minutes early every day. That's not really a paying job. My first real paying job was at a motorcycle shop on the West Bank of New Orleans called Honda West, and I worked in inventory control and worked my way all the way up to working the parts counter, which is just really funny because I don't know anything about motorcycles. I would start out the day by doing inventory control, which was taking the sales receipts for the parts that we sold the day before, subtracting those out of inventory and creating a new order list so we knew what we had to restock. But that didn't take all day, and I had expressed that I was going to college and I needed to have as many hours as I could. So they created another position for me, which was going and working the front counter. And so how I did that was the parts were on those diagrams where the parts of a motorcycle were kind of blown apart and all the parts were there, and so they were on microfiche, and I would turn the microfiche around to the customer and say, point to the part that you need. And they were all inventoried by number, so once they could show me what they wanted, I could go to the back, pull the part, and give them exactly what they wanted. I was so successful at doing that, having a customer point to what they needed, that they actually moved me into the service department, which was even funnier because people came in and would want to describe what was wrong with their cycle. So I just wrote down everything that they said and told them that if we couldn't fix it after I talked to the technician, we give them a free oil change, which back in that time was about a $12 value. So who wouldn't take advantage of that offer? But the boss liked it and he kept the program going. Kind of, if you're not satisfied, we'll give you something free. In Louisiana, we call that lagniappe. And lagniappe is a French term for a little something extra.
My very first job was at the Snellville Library branch. I was the collection support aide, which basically means I reshelved books once they got checked back in. Had great hours for me. I was in high school. I learned the Dewey Decimal System. It was great. I loved it. I guess we went to the library a lot as kids and stuff, and I thought it would be really cool. My mom didn't want me to work in fast food or any place where I could get robbed. I could still do my homework and not, be super tired or anything. It was just nice, mad spending money.
Pretty big company called Microflow that did pesticides and herbicides for farming. So it's a very dangerous job. Poison, you know, all day long can, you know, get you sick and stuff like that. So there was a lot of precautions to you know, go through doing hard hats, and then, you know, like moon suits where you actually have a whole, you know, Tyvek get up and everything else, and respirator and all that on. So my dad was working there, and then so I was like, hey, I'm not really doing too much, so go ahead and get some extra money while I'm young and do something pretty cool. I started as, like, you know, on the production line, you know, taping up boxes, packaging them, and then, you know, putting them on a pallet so they can be shipped out. And then I moved up pretty fast, being you know, in leadership, going from, you know, production line to actually running the production line, and then after that actually going into the lab to actually, you know, test the products before we ship them out.
My first job when I was in high school, I was 16 years old, I worked at McDonald's for 2 weeks. Then I turned in my 2-week notice, and that concluded my very first job. I was a cashier, and when I worked in the evenings I had to help close up, which meant I had to clean up. There was a friend of mine that worked there, and her and I would put all the leftover ice cream and all the leftover toppings, and we would have a gigantic sundae at the end of the night.
One of my worst days was actually going in on day shift, and my dad was working on third shift. And we usually run by each other every morning, you know, and just saying have a great day. And one morning he wasn't there, and I was like, well, I know he went to work, but found out that he cut his finger off, because it was pretty dangerous. He was actually working on filling up bags, and the machine malfunctioned and actually cut his finger off while he was filling up the bags. So that was one of my worst days, knowing that he was in the hospital and I still had to go to work.
I was a cashier at Winn-Dixie. That's probably my first, you know, absolutely my first customer service job, and just learned about, you know, a lot about, you know, how, you know, making the clients happy is really the biggest and most important thing. You know, service with a smile, and, you know, just trying to make your shopping experience a pleasant one.
Well, even there, you wouldn't think, but you have repeat customers that come in, and so always tried to treat them with respect, make sure that we had everything that they needed. I wanted to make sure that I was educated on the products that we sold, and all that has not changed. You know, still want to give the customers what they need, make sure that we have the answers for them. All that stuff has remained the same.
I think the lesson that everyone should learn when they have business is you can say the customer's always right, even when they're wrong, but they are a customer and they have huge input into the future of your business. So even when you have to tell a customer that they're not right, it has to be a win-win situation. And when you have a win-win customer service situation, everybody is happy, your customers come back, you have good reputation in the community, and people will spread that word of mouth.
Team building, leadership, you know, getting to know your coworkers, getting to work with them, you know, and treating them as equals, you know, was one of the main things I, you know, took away from it.
I learned that if you can lean, you can clean.
How did you learn that?
The manager told us several times a minute. That restaurant, you could eat off the floor. There was no standing still, there was no sitting down, there was no stopping and taking a sip. We were constantly cleaning, constantly cleaning.
So like I mentioned before, everybody here has a really different background. We all came from different places, and starting with those first jobs had some tough experiences, but also some that were pretty fun, and learned lessons along the way that we can use to be better coworkers and be better towards our clients, even here today. Well, that's all I got for this episode, but don't forget you can check out other episodes of the Displayit Show at our YouTube channel, so be sure to check those out. Well, I gotta go get back to work, but thanks again everybody for watching, and we'll see you next time.